All right. Hey, this is the Spark of Madness podcast. We're back after several weeks off.
2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks because of this.
Don't talk about it or don't say the word. We will get put in YouTube jail.
We're gonna catch it. No, this is our attempt to do social distancing with while still watching a movie, doing a podcast. I'm Matt. That's Ben with the green screen. Hi guys. Oh.
Hey, it worked. All right.
That's Aaron, and we're joined by our frequent guest Wesley. Hey, Wesley.
Hi. I took social distancing very seriously. I'm 800 miles away.
Hey, good job.
Gary! This is going to be so good when it snaps to the random jokes.
Yeah.
Snap! Boy. You know, Ben, when we were doing our normal show, Aaron could cut away from you. Now you have full control.
Oh, no.
There is no plan for fixing this.
Yeah. So this was supposed to be a flashback episode, and we kind of adhered to that, although more so with the availability of this movie that we're doing this week. But I think it's perfect because this was one that you, Aaron and Ben, our first year doing this, you brought up, and that's Hook.
Yep. The script of this movie is probably encoded in our DNA somewhere.
Yeah. So I think a good place to start with a movie like this is, we do it all the time, but for you guys, given how familiar you are with it, how many times have you seen this movie, roughly, Matt?
I have no idea. I've seen it so many times. I saw it in the theater. So when we had a friend group in college, it was myself, Aaron, Colin, and Chauncey, and we would quote only 2 movies to each other: Jurassic Park and Hook. That's it. That's all we would quote, just for random occurrences.
There's so many good lines.
There are.
And it helps that Hook is really long. There's a lot of lines.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Wesley, what about you?
It was the second movie I ever saw in the movie theater. I've seen it, I don't know, dozens of times. My parents really liked it for some reason. Not sure why.
Yeah, why would they?
But interested to talk about how it feels revisiting it.
So for me, this is one where I'm going to lean on you guys quite a bit, because I'm almost more interested in both how you felt about the movie when you first saw it at a young age, and then as it's progressed. I saw this for the first time, I think, last November.
Really?
I was trying to look up me texting you, Ben, because I remember I texted you about it, that I finally saw it, but I couldn't find the thread. But yeah, I saw it for the first time.
Oh yeah, because
I think you told us too.
You have a girlfriend now that is culturing you.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, this is to be placed on her shoulders. Okay.
I'm becoming an adult.
Yeah,
that's what this movie's about.
No growing up.
I can't remember which with this movie.
Stop this very instant, Matt.
Exactly, nail on the head.
So I guess who wants to give kind of the overall would you call this a sequel to the cartoon Peter Pan?
It's a sequel to the book.
I have a friend who wants to talk about it. Dude, let me come here. Come here.
Oh, is this it? I knew it.
Yarg! I think the movie was stupendous. You know what it's rated?
PG?
Yes. What be a pirate's favorite letter?
R.
No, laddie! It's the C!
I've never heard that one. Good job.
Your mother was a hamster.
That's it.
This movie be a sequel, see? A sequel, I tell you. And it's kind of a sequel to Disney's Peter Pan. If you look at the art direction and everything else. Oh, it's hot here. I think I got the scurvy or the corona.
Quit touching your face.
He's talking about the drink.
It could go with a lime very easily.
My ship's named Corona. The pearl of the sea.
The crown.
Look how we volley back and forth.
We are a pair, you and I.
I My pirate is nobody without a hat.
I like how he's like kind of balding a little bit.
Me hairline ain't what it used to be, lad.
Aye, it's a skirt.
The salty sea air.
Anyways, I say this is a sequel, Matt. What do you think?
I definitely think it's a sequel. I think it's set up that way, and which I really appreciated. The way they set it up as this like real life. I think my favorite, and we can talk a little bit more about it, but my favorite aspect about this movie, and we talked about this with some of our other fantasy ones in January, is that this movie starts in real world and then goes entirely imagination fantasy world.
It's the reverse of He-Man.
Exactly, which I hate, and I know it's for budget reasons, all this other stuff. This didn't worry about. This went for it with the art direction and putting Peter and everybody in Neverland. So I appreciated that.
Hey Matt, did you know I read some quotes from Spielberg? He thinks the only good part of this movie is when it's not in Neverland.
I know. Yeah, I saw that too.
I don't be understanding why he hates the movie so much.
Yeah, I don't understand either. I think he's just
It's a very polarizing movie.
I don't understand why. I've never
Wesley,
understood
what do
that.
you think?
So should I start with how I felt seeing it the first time, or like as a kid?
Boy.
Yeah. Let's start there because
Now it's time to take a nap, kids.
All right, Patchy, or whatever your name is. You were saying, Matt.
I'm sorry. I just saw in the small screen that far off. This is the best. No, so getting back to topic, I guess. Start with you, Wesley. What did you guys think of this when you first saw it as a kid?
So okay, like I said, it was the second movie I ever saw in the theater after the first, which was The Rocketeer, and so I guess there was sort of a fantasy thing going on in that 1991 era. And there's something to be said about, how like good kids movies or good family movies are the ones that work for both, where there's things that the kids aren't necessarily going to pick up on. This has a lot more of that than I remember. Like obviously it went over my head as a kid, but there's a lot more.
About 2 hours of the movie will go over your head as a kid.
Innuendos?
Yeah, lots of innuendos, lots of like really strange
Substitute chemistry teacher
observations on all sorts of different things that I'm interested to get into. But seeing it now as seeing it as an adult, now it's hard to ignore those things. It's hard to see.
Right.
For me personally, it's hard to see it the way I did then.
Right.
Like there's so much going on that like when it gets to the stuff that's exciting, I'm still like, what am I supposed to be taking away from this as an adult? It feels very muddled. Whereas a kid, it felt very like escapist. And
this is now a puppet stream.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on anymore.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
We're under the sea.
I couldn't resist. I'm sorry.
No, I hear what you're saying, and one of the things I was thinking about was, and I'd be curious for the rest of you too. But Wesley, how did you feel about the original Peter Pan, the Disney movie, the cartoon?
I still love it. I know it gets a lot of flack for its insensitivity, but it just seems like
Oh yeah.
I don't feel like it's as bad as it's. I feel like it's more of a comment on the attitude rather than a comment itself on people.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I think it's very insensitive to pirates.
Yeah, some pirates are nice.
Yeah, the
Ain't that the truth?
oft marginalized pirates.
To be honest, I don't remember a lot of the Disney Peter Pan. It never stuck with me.
Oh, yeah, not marginal.
I mean, I liked it when I watched it, but I don't remember it at all, and I never watched it again.
I thought it was hilarious because original cartoon, Hook is the comic relief and the bad guy.
Right.
In fact, there's a character that's really similar to him in a future Disney movie that they created as a villain, and that's Clayton in Tarzan.
Bingo.
The bad guy in that. Very similar drawn, very similar like screaming, and the voice actor is Hans Conrad,
who's a gem and a pearl to this world. My brother does a good impression of him when he does at the beginning, and I kind of do too. He makes me laugh every time he does it. He goes, "Oh Nana, before father, no, I'm a codfish." So because he's the voice of the father and Captain Hook.
Right? Yeah, that's some Jumanji stuff right there.
Oh, Nana.
I will say, as an adult, I
Conrad.
really appreciate the performances in this movie for the most part.
I do too.
I did too. But
They're
you know,
really great.
interesting little fact about Peter Pan, the cartoon. I think it's one of the first or few. They filmed the whole movie in live action.
Yeah.
Were references.
Yeah.
Oh,
And the actors wore costumes and stuff. And so they did some form of rotoscoping in it as well when they fought and stuff. So there's shots of them in live action. Now they didn't build the sets, but they built like rudimentary blocks and stuff to set on. And it's like, that's what I want to see, Disney. I want to see all that stuff. I want to see all the, like they did it with Alice in Wonderland. They did it with a lot of them. But that one in particular, there's like screen grabs of the film, of them filming it in live action. So all the voice
What year
actors
was that?
1950 something.
Late 50s?
I think so.
Late 50s.
Because in the 60s is when it got the Xerox phase,
Yeah.
and it was the quality went down.
I don't know. It has a certain feel to it that's nice, but maybe that's just because we were young. Like if we looked at it now, it'd be like, look at those construction lines. This is garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's an interesting little fact. But yeah, the performances were great in this. When I was a kid, I didn't know that. First of all, I didn't know that was Dustin Hoffman. I didn't know who it was. I thought it was Captain Hook.
How could you know it was
disappears into the
Dustin
role.
Hoffman? He looks like he's like 6 feet tall in this movie.
Yeah.
It's like the best magical
This is
special effect in
Heath Ledger's
Hollywood
Joker.
history.
He like completely disappears.
Well, because he's playing opposite of Robin Williams, who's just as short.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I'm just saying, making Dustin Hoffman look tall is probably the best visual effect in Hollywood history.
Okay. So Aaron, your experience of the movie
Yeah.
as an adult and as a child.
Child, yes. Oh, that was the question, just that statement? Okay. Yeah, much like what you guys said, when I was younger, a lot of it flew over my head. But what a kid could get out of that movie was still fun and adventurous. And then you get all the little subtle puns and stuff when you get older, and it becomes that much more satisfying, I think.
Very layered.
Plus
what I think is interesting is that, so I watched it as an adult only. I actually think, and I don't know, and maybe I haven't seen Peter Pan in a while, and maybe I'm just thinking about this movie specifically, about never growing up and all that. Something about it just seems like a message or something that would resonate with adults more, I guess.
That's what I was thinking when I was watching it this time. Is like, I think this movie's more geared toward adults.
Well, absolutely, because the main theme from him is the main message is Peter Pan, the most childlike person out of all of them, the king of the Lost Boys in Neverland, has become the most adult in the very beginning. You know what I mean? And he doesn't have time for his kids. He hasn't time for anybody because he's so worried about everything else. And he's missing the simple things in life. I got that as a kid, and I got that as an adult.
Yeah, I got that too.
And I think that was the biggest message of him, but also the lesson of not becoming too much of like a child too, the balance of it, because he forgets that he's a father. He forgets all that other stuff until Tinkerbell has to remind him. So there's a lot of really wonderful themes, and the freaking score.
Yeah.
It's one of the best John Williams scores ever made.
Johnny Williams knocked it out.
I could be wrong about this, but I heard that it was I think either Steven Spielberg or somebody approached John Williams and wanted to make an adaptation as a play.
Right.
Of this.
Musical.
And musical. And so the first number you hear was the first little bit that they made for the musical. We want to be like Peter Pan. We don't want to grow up. But I love that piano at the beginning. And it sets the tone. It's just a kid's show. And it's someone playing the piano at a play. One other thing I noticed in the art direction, people complain, oh, it's all sets. It looks like sets. Well, they did it on purpose because it feels like a play. Mm-hmm. It feels like a play. They're not going to shoot in location in real places in Neverland. It's a play.
That's another thing that bothered me. In Steven Spielberg's like his spiel against his own movie is that everything's on sets. I wish I could have done it today where it's all digital. And I'm like, no, don't do that, please, no.
This is what makes it good.
Yeah, I agree.
He said if today he would have made Jaws, it wouldn't be as good because he would have showed the shark digitally. Like this is what makes it good.
And to me, it doesn't even look like blatant sets. It looks good to me.
It does. I love it. I and people, it's a very polarizing movie.
People are just stupid. That's all.
I don't understand why he doesn't like it.
I could understand saying that the movie is a little bloated, but that's it.
See, I think it's a little muddled. Like you made a good point and kind of made me think about it a little bit differently, Ben, when you said that there's like a complexity to it, to where it's like, yes, this, but not too far, and that it feels like, to me, it feels like they're. And on top of it being thematically a little muddled for me personally, it feels like there's multiple scripts that they may have like merged together.
Absolutely.
Oh, you get that as well?
No, I'm just saying I know that for a fact.
Oh, is that true? I don't know.
The movie's gone through several rewrites because they tried to make it in the 80s too.
Okay. Well, there's just for example, the fact that there are 2 roles for each Bob Hoskins and Dustin Hoffman feels like there was something.
Who else is Dustin Hoffman?
Yeah, I'm
the pilot of the plane.
Wait, we never saw that though.
But you hear his voice.
His voice.
I can now that I'm playing it back in my head, I think there's something to that.
I never knew that. That's crazy.
And he says something that like. He said there's something in what he says that's alluding. Like,
all I remember is for the remainder of the flight.
And he's the cap. I think he says like, "This is your captain speaking." And you're supposed to be like, "Oh,
that's good. I like that."
This is your captain speaking. Don't try to stop me this time, co-pilot. Don't you dare try to
I'm nose diving.
But you made me think of it a little bit differently, Ben, in the sense that like you made me think of it a little bit differently. That like I felt like each different version of the script had a different thing in mind, and the movie got both of them. But maybe it is a little bit more like what you said. It's about finding a balance between adult.
That's exactly what I got.
Is it because it feels like there's a theme for children to take away, but there's also the one for adults to take away. And I feel like the one for kids he nailed, but the one for adults he was like, I'm not really sure what I'm trying to say. I
don't know.
It's more of just an
don't grow up,
observation.
but don't stay a kid. It's easy.
I'm a Toys R Us kid.
I think Robin Williams was the perfect Peter Pan.
I absolutely agree.
I didn't get that. I was watching this and was like, this should have been Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, and somebody said this to me. They were like, it's weird that they cast Robin Williams, this living cartoon character, and they're like, all right, now be a weird adult for the first,
he did a great job.
He's a really good adult. He's a great actor.
I agree with that, but why it feels weird.
No, why it works.
Michael Keaton.
Why it works is because he's a child. He's a child. He's got a childlike heart. Like why it works is Peter Pan captures the essence of a child, and the most childlike performer and artist of our living mind right now was Robin Williams.
I can think of no one else.
And he's warm. When he emotes, warm. You connect to him. You love him. You root for him. You mean there's something inviting about him that you love, and you don't want like you feel the good.
There are a few people more personable than him.
Mm-hmm. I think my kid wouldn't
I'm just saying I think you can understand from an audience perspective if you're going in and you're like, hey, Robin Williams is going to play Peter Pan. You go in and then you're like, wait, what am I watching for the first hour?
You're right. They should have got Pacino.
Pacino.
I don't have my.
These are my children.
You know who my happy thought was? It was you.
He would have been an interesting hook.
Gonna fight me.
And then De Niro would have been Hook.
Aaron, you could probably tell me this.
You want to come onto my ship?
You talking to me? You talking to me?
Yes, Wesley.
Is it true? I'm peeking. Is it true that Dustin Hoffman was the secondary casting to Jeremy Irons?
I don't believe that. I think he was attached from the very beginning.
Okay,
because I think the role was written for him, as far as I know.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because I had read somewhere that it was originally Jeremy Irons and then he dropped out.
I could have seen that, but Dustin Hoffman is too good to want to switch.
But this is not Dustin Hoffman that anybody is familiar with. Like this was definitely a like, oh, whoa.
Wow.
Like step back.
I was really surprised in impressed. I very much as much
His
as
voice.
much as I like Robin Williams,
Your
I
dad,
thought
brothers.
Justin Hoffman stole.
He really did.
And Bob,
And it's,
Bob Hoskins too.
oh yeah, Bob
them
Hoskins is amazing.
together was a great. Well, and also, I mean, I felt like this entire movie, you know, as Aaron put it, was like, grow up, but don't be too much of a kid, or however you phrased it. Like, it's a pretty simple message, but the path they took to get there, and especially how they
It took
kinda
almost 2.5
diverted
hours.
yeah, I mean, it's long, but I mean, they went down two paths, and the path they took with Captain Hook to make him, you know, wanting, like, the way he's going to destroy Peter Pan is to convince his kids to like him more. Like, I was not expecting that at all. The baseball scene was amazing.
Yeah,
to
it
me.
was.
I thought that was
Run
super
home, Jack! Run! No! Turn it around!
He shoots the guy stealing second.
He's stealing second.
My favorite
Bad
part.
form.
It's so
It's ridiculous, but it works.
Well,
Yeah,
it's a callback to the original Peter Pan when he's getting a shave, like Captain Hook. He's getting a shave, and like you hear that guy singing, "Oh, a pirate's life is a wonderful life."
I
He's
remember
sailing
that.
over the sea, and he's like, "Oh," and he takes the gun, and you hear a splash. It's like he just killed the guy. You know?
That's why this is one of the reasons that I feel like the apt comparison to Hoffman as Hook is Heath Ledger as the Joker. Is it's a transformative role, but if Twitter had existed in 1990 and people who love
People would have been outraged.
they would have been like hashtag not my Hook, you know, like not my Captain Hook.
Same thing with
blown away.
Michael Keaton as Batman.
But and what Aaron said, it was exactly what I was thinking this time with the his way to defeat Peter Pan in his own internally is to change his children's mind about him. That's exactly one of my favorite Joker storylines is White Knight, where he's like, I'm gonna beat Batman by being a better hero than Batman. You ever read that? That was exactly what I thought of watching this. I was like, oh, that is an interesting way. Like, rather than making him like, I'm gonna do this whatever, you know, typical movie villain thing, it was like, oh, that's way more emotional. That's way more interesting.
And
So-
they did it in the scene where Bob Hoskins essentially gives him the idea.
Mhm.
It's a very long, like, there's a bunch of, if I remember, just in general with the runtime, but specifically, it plays out like it's a long scene, but it's all really funny. Like, he goes and puts his shoes in the
I've just had an
like,
apostrophe.
Yeah, the suicide
all the
scene.
same shoes,
Mhm.
and like there's a lot of really good comedic bits in there to get to the point where Bob Hoskins, it's kind of like Mr. Burns, like thinking it's his idea when it really wasn't.
Smee is Smithers.
Yeah.
There's, I mean, is it just me? Because watching it, I got very. There's undertones to that, right? To that relationship. Or is it just me?
Only if you really want there to be.
It's just you. It's just you because when the very beginning.
Because you like
when-
dudes.
Yes.
It's,
No, I thought it was interesting.
no, it's not. It's just you because the beginning is like when he's. Well, first of all, let's talk about this, and I'll get to my point. What's awesome about Steven Spielberg, especially back then, he waited. He waited. He wanted like the build up to see Hook. It was like, boy, the payoff when he comes up. You know, when you get the remnants of him, they talk about him. You know, they see him in the painting.
The stained glass window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the painting.
There's a
And
painting.
the painting of the pirates. All right, and you hear like before he enters, and then afterwards when they come back and they see all the line, the hooks and everything all torn up. In the
Such a good setup.
And then like him presenting the hook, you know, and then the whole da 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 da, everything, the theme, everything. It's so good. I remember humming that loving that as a kid, and so loving it as an adult. But when the sequence when Bob Hoskins carrying the hook, put your faces on, ladies, Smee's coming. so there's
It's both serious
that.
and funny at the same time.
yeah.
Well
See,
executed.
I thought it was intentional because there are so many other undertones in the movie with like little innuendos, like you said. But I thought it was
did too.
playing. I thought You didn't see the innuendos in the movie?
I didn't see the undertones with him and the Hook.
With Shmi and Hook?
Yeah.
No, I did. I thought that was kind of the point. I thought that was kind of the point of the. I thought that was sort of the point of the wenches, as you said, like, you know, kind of obsessing over Smee. It was that they were implying like they don't know that he's otherwise his interests are otherwise.
Guys, I think Wesley's just not used to having wenches thirst after him. I mean, we all do.
Yeah. No, I'm not.
It's pretty normal.
It's fair. But especially that scene, I was just like, oh, I like.
True.
And the thing that it made me think of was the producers. Like, it felt like that kind of relationship with the play director and the.
I think he's more of his handler.
Yeah, I never got those vibes.
Yeah.
I got a childlike vibe where, like, it's the kid on the playground who's the boss and the other kid who's waiting on him.
Interesting. I thought it was just one of the sort of themes that Spielberg was.
Yeah, the gay theme is really important to Peter Pan.
Yeah, I'm sure he was worried about that in the 90s. But
he works in Hollywood, man.
You are peaking a little bit. Yeah.
No, don't turn it down. You'll be fine.
I do love that scene. He goes, "Oh, not again." Oh, not again.
With the.
No, Wesley, that's way too low.
Way too low.
How about that?
Perfect.
Way too high.
Okay.
What was the other line before? Not again. Are you getting dramatic?
Don't try and stop me. Try and stop me.
Yeah, I'm having an epiphany.
I just had an apostrophe.
I've got an apostrophe. Like this such it's so well written. It's so
Hoskins is very good in this.
I was going to ask you guys, having seen it many more times, and you talked about quoting it, Ben. If you had to pick one, what is your favorite line from the movie? The thing you quote the most?
I have an answer after his.
You go first.
Well, Ben, you always do the you know what my happy thought was line. You've been doing that to me for over a decade.
Oh, yeah. You know what my happy thought was? It was you.
And it makes me all fuzzy inside every time.
Yeah, it was.
The moment I think of most isn't very quotable. It's just the visual of when he says, like, draw your weapon, and he just takes out his checkbook. It's like, how much? It's like hilarious.
Yeah.
Draw your weapon.
What about you, Aaron? What were you going to say?
Well, no, I my answer was what Ben's answer would be.
Okay.
That's your answer. You take
Is it? Then I have a different answer.
I hate Peter Pan.
Not
It's
a bad
really good.
impression. I have to say that
I was
entire
gonna say-
scene with Smee and Hook really stuck with me. It's very funny.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I was gonna say just the line that you guys quoted for 3 years before I saw the movie that stuck with me the most up until I saw it.
and then we never quote it again.
You're doing it, Peter.
Oh, yeah,
You're playing with us, Peter.
You're doing it, Peter.
I never knew what it was.
Colin does that one a lot.
Yeah.
Colin does it. You're doing it, Peter.
So
You rude fruit lewd bag of pre-chewed food, dude.
Not to bring everything down, I will say that the imaginary food eating scene.
That's a
was probably
standout.
It was my least.
Oh,
Really?
I thought that was very pivotal. And really
Yeah,
good.
it was. That's
As
very.
a kid, I loved it.
That's a very depressing answer, Matt.
I didn't think this is one of the spots where I can understand a little bit Wesley's where it's muddied a little bit. That scene I didn't quite understand. I didn't know if they really were. For a second, I thought they were just literally starving.
No. Hold on. Stop the boat. Stop the boat.
It was transitioning.
Tinkerbell says the line, "You can't be Peter Pan if you can't pretend to be Peter Pan." She says it. That's the point of the scene.
I love it because it's figuring out the Matrix. It's like his first. Oh, he's going through all these trials, and he finally that little bit of
Peter Pan's fighting Neo.
Well, what's good about it compared to movies today, especially like the Star Wars trilogies, the new ones, is that it shows how he's trained. They're training him to be Peter Pan again.
Yeah, and it's more important than just the sword fighting.
And he's struggling. But that, I mean, you feel like, oh man, this guy's never gonna get it. And that was the pivotal moment of like him figuring things out a little bit. You know what I mean?
More important than that was him figuring out the insults. That's very Peter Pan.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're right. I forgot about that. I forgot about that part, yeah.
Stupid man, stupid man.
What was that? The one that makes me laugh is where Peter Pan, Robin Williams, says substitute chemistry teacher as an insult, and one of the other guys is like, "Come on, Rufio, hit him back."
yeah. Oh, Rufio,
Math
why don't
tutor.
you go suck on a dead dog's nose? I love that for some reason. And Fud Butt.
He makes his own
Fudball.
cheese in this movie. Did you see that?
Yeah, that's when he took a bite of. And then,
It's got his
then it showed the
face
white
and name
dot
printed
of
on it.
And his big mouth is coming out of it.
He makes his own head cheese.
So when I remember that when that scene happened, it's like, what is this food? Like, why is everything so colorful?
Why
like,
is everything covered in frosting?
Yeah, it's like, this looks amazing. I want some of that, whatever it is.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, it was just like, what the heck? It actually reminded me a little bit of Santa Claus movie.
Yeah.
Like the way that looked.
Yeah, everything was like,
that.
it looked like the frame itself could give you diabetes.
One of the things that did hit me the exact same as it did when I was a kid was how awesome the scene looks where they're honoring Wendy.
Yeah.
And it's all lit by those tabletop lamps.
It's very
I was like,
dimly lit, but it comes across very well.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is some really cool throwback kind of really silver screen Hollywood cinematography.
Do you think the song that the little girl sings and that his daughter is from the play that they wrote?
That was what I had read.
It's really good. John Williams is amazing. John Williams make this movie. I think if you break it down, and I could be wrong, this is a single movie that has the most themes in it that he's ever written. I think.
You think so?
Star Wars is a lot, but Star Wars adds on to it. Like
Right. Yeah. The 3 movies don't count.
I read that he finished the entire thing. They've just never done it.
Oh, they should do it.
Seems weird. You think that with this really nostalgia age we live in, they would have been like, all right, Hook the musical Broadway.
I was very lucky a couple years ago to see John Williams here in Indianapolis, and they open up with Hook. They open up.
Wow. You'd think that they would ignore that, but I'm glad they did it.
You can hear the little bits of Harry Potter in it, which I love.
Harry
Potter, you can hear the bits of Hook.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean.
No,
like you can
I
hear-
don't.
Oh,
I
no.
think you should say it backwards.
Yes, and Home Alone. I mean, yeah, Home Alone.
Talking about Hurdy Pooper in our Hook stream.
Wait for the good pictures.
I like that his hat keeps falling off.
Oh my.
It wasn't me. It's hot.
So,
What
last
was the point of the RGB mermaids?
You don't like getting kissed by mermaids?
Is that what it all was?
Life in Tom Lad.
I just wondered.
They rescued him. That's about the long and short of it.
Yeah.
They put him in that shell that lifts him up to the top of that mountain
Right.
so he can fall down again.
Yeah, I just wondered what the.
It seems a little extraneous, but it's very Peter Panish to have
It
mermaids.
is
like,
very
how
Peter
would-
Pan, but
How are we going to get him out of the pirate ship? Like, that's
No,
the-
I don't mean the fact that they're there. I just meant like as a kid, I get it. Like what I mean, like he nailed this from a kid perspective, but when you're watching it as an adult, you're like, what are you trying to say?
Admittedly, I would have cut that scene for time.
For time,
but
yeah,
it
but
has-
it's like, what is
but that-
he trying
I
to say?
think they
There's a
needed-
burgeoning sexuality thing in this movie, definitely, like puberty and like little bits of themes of that.
Can we talk about Tinkerbell?
Yes, we can. Absolutely, we
Yeah,
can.
that has been a subject that has
Yes.
intrigued me in this movie for a while.
I think that's the first time I ever thought when I was little, like, Tinkerbell's cute. You know, like his little kid.
Yes.
I want to stroke her
Yeah.
wings.
Nice legs.
You have very nice legs. You remind me of my mother.
Julia Roberts.
Yeah, that was her in her prime.
Do you think it was unnecessary to have the Tinkerbell love subplot? Because I'm not sure.
Because it's because it's in the.
They use it to
I'm
remind
kidding.
him that he has a family at home.
Yeah. That's what I think it works.
It does, but also it's true to the lore.
Well, she's the person that kind of transports him there. The fact that he would reject her, this very obvious, and the fact that he could shrink down to her side, like all of those things, I think it works.
Is this one of like, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but is this the one time in human history that a girl was friend zoned?
Sorry, that's funny.
Let me think about it.
Oh no.
I think you'd be right.
Wait, no, Spider-Man.
You don't friend zone Julia Roberts.
No, probably
You're
not.
right.
So what works about that too? Yes, those things.
When she's got a mouth that big, you gotta go for it.
It wasn't.
I'm trying to.
Two moves on. Hold on. Let me.
You mean
finish
this
the
big?
What works is also the lore of it, because she was always in love with Peter Pan, like in the original book.
The book Wendy and
jealous
Peter
of
Pan.
Wendy.
Yeah. They did that in the cartoon a little bit too. Now that I think about it, didn't they?
And let's talk
The jealousy thing.
Yeah.
And there's another Harry Potter ripped off is Maggie Smith, right?
Yeah.
She was
Wendy.
like 53 in this movie.
She always looks old.
She's
always
like
looked
50
old.
something.
She's never changed. She's always looked old. Her and Angela Lansbury.
Heaven forbid they give her skin like the stretching steam treatment and give her a wig that's gray. I mean,
So
I'm just saying.
You become a pirate.
we're hitting that time. The last thing I was going to ask you guys, just because thinking about the type of movie and the type of show this is even this is a flashback. This is an older movie, 1991. For one, do you think this movie would? It's on Netflix. Do you think it would resonate with modern audiences? I guess, or does it have a place?
I don't know.
And however you feel about it, what do you think is the main takeaway?
I have an answer. For this. I think it will resonate with current audiences, at least in line with the ratio that it's polarizing to older generations. You know what I mean? So anybody that would have been receptive to it 20, 30 years ago would be receptive now.
Okay.
I think there's going to always be a subsegment of the population that is dumb and doesn't like it, but it's going to happen.
It's funny because all the live action adaptations of Peter Pan afterward have been terrible.
Awful. Garbage.
The Peter Pan movie with what's his name is a great villain, bad. The
Jason
one with
Isaacs?
Jason Isaacs, bad. But it's just too much produced.
Hugh Jackman, right?
Wasn't
Hugh
this
Jackman
movie
was
considered
the bad,
overproduced in its time?
Yeah, but I'm talking about in terms of like the saturation of all this digital effect that they're in a green screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like it's not. There's no charm to it. There's something timeless about this. They had real matte paintings. I mean, for crying out loud.
Those matte paintings are incredible.
They're 3D. They do like a little texture on it.
Yeah.
There's a cool technology.
I love those wide shots of the whole island and the compass rose is actually in the water.
Yeah.
That always got
cool?
me.
I agree with what you're saying, Ben. This one, while I'm not exactly sure, and obviously Steven Spielberg's not exactly sure what he was trying to say with this movie, it had something to say. It dug into deep things. Those other ones, they're just surface level movies.
Yeah.
There's nothing under it.
So-
Like they have Nirvana songs in them. Like this does something more. Like it's complex and interesting.
Because they have John Williams in your back corner. That's always good.
That's true.
You always
And
want
the
him in your
payoff
corner.
is great. Him finally becoming Peter Pan. The payoff is awesome.
I agree with that.
And Hook reveal is awesome.
Yeah.
And there's a tragedy. Rufio dies. In it. Spoiler. And
And it's got Julia Roberts.
it's good. You really love it. It's good. So there's it's a complete movie. Like I think
It's heavy.
I would
I
have to
think
agree. It's very hard hitting.
The thing about this for me that I think would not only resonate right now, but also specifically right now is that it kind of has this. Well, for one, he's very distracted. Like that's a theme that was clearly like, oh, cell phones are just now like a big deal. Now we have even more technology. The idea that somebody would not be paying attention to the people around them and being present and enjoying
Hold on,
that.
Maura. I got to check Twitter.
Yeah, I think that's like a very recognizable idea for people to latch onto. But then also it's
How's a poop deck up there? Aye.
the
Just
other
out
thing
of you
that
now.
I think Peter Pan and the idea of like never growing up, and it's this in this case it's almost rejection.
Yeah, can I get 2 pies, 1 pepperoni,
escapism.
1 cheese?
Which you guys clearly don't.
I'm listening. I'm listening.
We're visual representations of your point.
I'm absolutely listening. I'm so present.
So yeah.
Did you say present?
I had no other thought other than I think the idea of both whatever age group you are, the idea of like imagining like getting away from your problems or like feeling like you're tethered to them even. I think that's something that regardless of, 30 years later would still have a resonance with people.
Yeah.
I wonder what people think of it now.
I wonder.
I know that my brother, he has kids and stuff, and he shows them all these old movies, and they love it. I think because they're influenced.
I mean, heck,
by my brother, but
I think
they
kids are a
watch
little
all these
better
old movies.
than we give them credit for. Like, my dad tells me that my nephew watches Buster Keaton with him and loves it. So, I mean, it can't be that bad for younger kids these days,
I think you guys, we've officially hit the point where we've made Wesley leave.
Wesley?
Oh, he's gone. Why'd he go?
Where did you go?
To Neverland.
People
He went to Neverland.
Should we invite him again, or
He's got the link.
maybe he'll hop back on or something.
So
In the meantime,
yeah.
should we give our number ratings?
Yeah, let's start. Maybe we'll go slowly and hopefully he'll show
well,
up.
let's talk about this first before we get the number ratings.
Okay.
Let's see if Matt can name all the cameos in it.
Oh.
I saw this. I didn't rewatch it, so I'm not going to be good at this.
Okay, so
We've
Do you
told you one
realize-
important one.
I just know Glenn Close because you brought it up 1,000.
who is she? Who is she in?
One of the pirates.
Oh no, not
Almost
just
all
one
the
of pirates.
cameos are one of the pirates.
So
That's true. Do
do you remember the pirate that
Yes.
they put in the boo box?
He looked very feminine.
That's Glenn Close.
I remember seeing her.
No. Okay,
Yeah.
and then there's also
Phil Collins.
Phil Collins, who was the detective. At the
Right.
beginning. Then there was also Crosby from Crosby, Stills and Nash,
I didn't know
What's his
that
name?
one.
or yeah, he was one of the pirates.
Something Crosby. I remember
Save
reading it.
me, Daddy.
That's him?
That's
Is he the same guy that gets the nut shot from Thudbutt?
I think so.
Yeah.
I can't believe I remember this. I can't believe I remember that.
Save me, Daddy.
It's a line
That was
in the script, and then this person.
And then Crosby gets a nut shot.
Give me a wide on that.
Oh.
What happened to Wesley? Get him back on.
Yeah, Wesley, what happened to you, boy? There's nothing I can do.
We can edit it, and then there's who else? Then there's George Lucas and Carrie Fisher.
Yeah, they are the kissing couple on the bridge. Wesley, are you messaging us?
Very end.
His
the
computer
very
just
beginning.
shut off. Okay, I'll tell him to just write down his number rating. Continue,
Give
Ben.
us the number rating, and we'll say it out loud.
Well, I'm not the one talking. You keep going.
What other cameos? Quickly.
Let's see. There's I can't think. Do you know any other cameos?
You're the expert, man. I only knew Glenn Close,
Here,
Phil
let me look it up.
Collins, Carrie Fisher, and George Lucas. That's all I knew.
I'm gonna just read my. I'm just gonna say my rating.
Do you have a
Let's just-
treatment?
Yeah.
Hook movie cameos. Hold on. Here it is.
Okay, we'll wait. In total silence.
16. Cameos.
We're gonna leave this all in.
No,
Leave that in too.
it's very important. All right, this is not all of them. I'm just fine.
This is not an
I don't
exhaustive
know.
list.
I don't have it. Oh, here we go. IMDb. I need to be heavy.
I got it. I promise this time. I got it.
Okay, here we go. The kid, Robin Williams became best friend with George.
Did you know that Robin Williams is in this movie?
So the kissing couple who begin floating is George Lucas and Carrie Fisher. Yes.
I'm back.
Maggie Smith.
Good for you.
Oh, we're talking about all the characters.
Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah.
Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah. I always forget about her.
Yeah, she's a kid.
She's young Wendy.
Roberts was nominated for a Razzie Award.
What?
She was great.
She was just fine.
Julia Roberts was nicknamed.
That's a hard role.
Tinker Hell because she was so difficult to deal with, a reaction to her working conditions of solitude and a green screen. So she was just on a green screen most of the time.
And Steven Spielberg was like crapping on her the entire time or something.
I mean, she's not that small.
Wow, I didn't realize that you were that funny, Wesley. I've misjudged you.
Let's do our ratings, guys.
Okay. Who wants to go first?
The word bangarang is actually a Jamaican slang for uproar, disorder, and disturbance.
Wow, they're
It's also a
anarchists.
Yes.
Okay. How about I go
Aaron,
first?
Aaron, go first.
Okay. The main thing of what I want to say is how well I think this movie holds up after, has it been 30 years?
30 years.
29, 30 years?
29. Yeah.
We've been away from Neverland for so long.
For such a movie, and much like we talked about where we do lines from Jurassic Park as well, it's in the same boat of movies that have aged so well, especially just the performances and the visual look. Everything holds up so well, and it feels like I'm watching it for the first time every time. And
It's the definition of timeless.
very timeless. I would give this movie a 7 out of 10. It's not a perfect movie. I think it's a little overstuffed, but I can't think of many things to take out. So I don't even know if that's a valid criticism.
Just the mermaids.
Yeah.
The part goes. I like it as an adult, but the part with him talking about like his history goes a little too long for kids. Like when he's like thinking about, I was in a baby carriage and the baby carriage flew away. She abandoned me. You know.
No, he said he ran away, which always got me
he's
weirded
like-
out.
he's
So I was like, did you really think that? Did you?
he has a joystick in there. You know?
Victory is mine.
Oh, green screen.
But that is my rating. Who wants to go next?
Wesley, go. Is Wesley frozen? That's hilarious.
No, he
Wesley.
Wesley,
What?
get a better computer.
Yeah, get a better computer. You were like this. I'm sad. The whole time.
fell in the toilet.
Nobody likes my opinion.
Bone saw is ready.
Oh,
All right, Wesley,
You
what's
guys
your
can-
rating?
what's your rating?
7 out of 10.
Oh, 2 sevens.
Can you care to expound on that or?
Yeah, I think it's. I do think it's muddled. I do think that there's like some uncertainty on Spielberg's part of what he's actually trying to say. I think that there's definitely some script issues because, of, like you said, there were multiple scripts that you're like, wait a second, now what am I supposed to think? And I know you should dismiss some of that as just fanciful, you know, like especially the ending.
The rules of this movie make it pretty easy to deflect on criticism, I would say.
Right. But there's something about it. There's something exactly
Magical.
like you said, timeless about it. It's masterfully made. One of the things that I noticed is how shaky a lot of the dolly shots are, and then I decided that I think that's completely on purpose.
You think so?
I do think is like Ben was saying, there's supposed to be this like play aspect of it. There's supposed to be this like
supposed to feel like you're really there.
unrefined quality because it's only happening during certain times where I'm like, why is it so shaky? And then it cuts back
Which
to
part? I don't even remember.
a lot of the parts where he's when he first goes to Neverland, like all of the dolly shots are really like they feel
That's just showing him being on shaky footing. That's
exactly.
metaphor.
And I didn't get it, but then later, no, you're completely right.
Come on, I
because
was
then later, all
BSing.
the shots are locked down.
Maybe
and
I'm joke right.
No, I think you are right. That's what I got from it
I
because
made
it
that
just
up on the
stops.
spot. How could that be right?
I think you're right. That's what I got from it because
This
it
is like
does
when you
just
write a
stop.
bullcrap poem in high school and everybody thinks it's good and you're like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
I did this for English class in 5 minutes. Oh, it's really great. No, it's not.
Stop calling me a genius.
Thank you.
No, it does just stop at a certain point, and you're like, oh, okay. When he starts getting more comfortable, you're like, okay, it's not shaking as much because it doesn't feel like handheld camera. It feels like a bad dolly, and I guess that makes sense.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I enjoy it. It's an enjoyable experience. There's things that I would cut out of it for sure. There are parts that feel overly long.
Other than the mermaids, what would you cut?
What would I cut? A lot of the just like the not manic, the like Peter being a. There are lots of moments that feel like they're like, okay, yeah, we got this in the last scene, but now he's doing it again.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like really doubling down on him being like a tight ass.
Okay.
Especially with his son. There's a lot of stuff with the son where it's like, yeah, I got that from the last line.
Yeah, I suppose
Like
there's a
his
few
son
of those
throwing
early in the movie.
the ball at the ceiling.
Yeah. Although, that same scene.
I don't mean like
where
entire scenes. I mean like shortening scenes.
Okay, you would just cut a couple of frames here and there.
Yeah, like beats.
Yeah, I understand.
It's very long.
You know, I don't remember being so long as a kid.
Yeah,
But
I
me
agree.
either.
It never felt very long to me as a kid.
And as an adult, I don't think it's that long.
Love the giant crocodile. I'll put that out there too. Love it.
Me too. I gotta say this.
Awesome.
I gotta say this. I love this movie. It's one of my favorite movies. I have a lot of big childhood memories of it. Like I said, you know, me and my brother Jacob loved this movie. When our uncle took us to see us, took us to see it with him in the theater. It was such a special memory because I remember getting Donald's hamburgers before.
Nice.
But little, like all those little things. And I just remember it's like, da, 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 da. We just loved it. And we felt really special because we were chosen by our uncle to watch that, my Uncle Joe. And it was one of the first, like I remember getting a DVD player for the first time. I had The Matrix, and I bought Jaws, and I bought Hook. I bought Hook. It was one of my first
That'll
DVDs.
cover you for a whole month.
Yeah, and I love it. I think the music is amazing. I think John Williams makes I think they're very much symbiotic relationships where it's like you got perfect marriage between a director and a film composer that let them thrive off each other. You know what I mean? You have someone that in Steven Spielberg that admires and loves John Williams and says, "Here's your playground," and you have someone who they have such a good vibe with each other. And it wasn't until John Williams met Steven Spielberg until John Williams became John Williams. He made a lot of stuff before, but he let him loose, you know, because he knew how good he was, and that was like what Jaws when it was first started. But that was the second movie they made together. But there's only like 2 or 3 movies in his history later in life that Steven Spielberg has not made a movie with John Williams. And I think it's because by like timing and stuff. But,
Yeah, they were already committed to something.
yeah, and it was like later in life, like just recently, because John Williams is not as
He's not as young as he used to be.
Yeah, he's not as surprised.
Is AI one of them?
No, AI was one of them.
John Williams did AI.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
He did AI. He did every Steven Spielberg except for like 2.
Oh,
I think he didn't do
what was
Ready
that?
Player One. He didn't do Ready Player One,
Yeah.
and he didn't
That
do
was
the one.
Alan Silvestri.
Yeah, and he didn't. I think because he was doing Star Wars at the time, and he couldn't. He's not as quick as he used to be, and he didn't do. He didn't do the one that the Coen brothers wrote, that Steven Spielberg directed.
Oh, Bridge of Spies.
Yeah. So the combination of that, the timelessness that they made, everything. I think is 8 or 9 out of 10. I love this movie.
Which
one
is
of my
it?
favorite movies.
Yeah,
I
pick
think
one.
9. Give me a 9 because it's the same feeling they have with The Rocketeer.
Yeah,
You know, it just takes me away. It's just
they're both very
and
timeless.
every payoff. He knows how to capture our imaginations. Steven Spielberg. He knows what he's doing.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna obviously bring up the rear. I was afraid this would happen given our audience. I gave it a 6 out of 10, which I think is
Kick him out of the chat, boys.
for me. Yeah.
You must die.
Bye. I drop off now, just like Wesley did. I don't have a whole lot to add. I think I'm probably have a similar opinion as Aaron and Wesley that gave it 7s. I don't think it's drastically different in terms of our perception of it. So, I mean,
are you saying that it's not going to stick with you as it has us?
Well, I mean, and I watched it a little bit later. Maybe just the way that I've interacted with it is a little bit different.
Yeah, give it time.
I mean, it's so much of the movie. Like I said, I didn't rewatch this. Usually, I'll rewatch even a movie I've seen before right in advance. But in this case, I kind of scrolled through a couple scenes on Netflix, and that was it.
Oh,
and
bad form, Matthew.
I mean, I still remember a whole lot of it, though, and that's a testament to the movie. And I think the concept and then the various kind of plot points that they focused on, the structure of it, it's really good. But what really makes it is the performances, which a lot of these movies may not hit exactly right. And I think the casting for this was so spot on that they're able to pull off something that maybe other people didn't like as much, it sounds like. But when I watched this, I was surprised to see that it was polarizing. Like, I couldn't believe that it would even, like, how could you have such a negative opinion about it? So
yeah, I don't understand it either.
I really don't get that.
It's interesting to watch Christopher Robin and then watch this, because I feel like Christopher Robin would have been way more effective if it had approached it like this.
I haven't seen that
like
one.
The
So
kind of big theatrical way,
never saw
not
it.
so.
yeah, it seemed like it was garbage, so I avoided it.
Christopher Robin.
Yeah,
It's okay, but it's not this. This is more rich.
it was like Disney's version of Dr. Sleep.
I also think
it's funny that the guy who did Christopher Robin did Finding Neverland. Hilarious.
And that was okay, but I also think that today's day and age, I really do think this is strong, that the importance, especially for a child and memories, of music in a movie. And I think the way directors are now and the way movies are cookie cutters and everything's temp track, there are very few wonderfully scored movies, and they are out there. But and I think, the way they just mass produce, there's no TLC, there's no craftsmanship anymore in movies.
They don't bake the bread like
I would
they
almost
used to.
say, I would say that in tandem to that, and almost maybe even more so, is the fact that it isn't. I mean, other than Julia Roberts' Tinkerbell, which is almost you kind of have to do it that way. It's all like these, like it looks like sets because they are.
There's no green screen.
Huge rooms.
No, there
like,
is green screen. Some, but very minimal.
I mean, I saw the shots of the giant studio warehouses that they put all these things together, and I heard about hydraulics and all this stuff that, like
the ship, yeah.
Yeah, you get the feel of it. Like this,
Yeah, they're on wires.
You're not standing in an empty room.
They built a system to make a red carpet come out of stairs. I mean, big stuff.
Yeah, exactly, right? That's, I mean, like the little things like that, an actual ship.
But we've talked about this before, and I think this is a good movie to bring it up. That it's not that visual CGI. It's not that those things are bad. I think and I didn't realize this going into it, but I think for me personally, I connect with the fidelity and the craftsmanship of a stage play. Like it triggers your brain a little bit differently when you're recognizing some of the practicality of it, or the tangible aspects of it, even if it's not exactly perfect.
Yes, Matt, you're correct. Computer graphics on their own are not evil. I think they're just used irresponsibly 90% of the time.
It's because they want something quick and fast, and they don't think about a scene, and it's quick.
Another thing to consider, though, is like in the Marvel universe, everything's green screened so that things can be changed in any way to satisfy like the producers at the last minute.
And it's despicable.
Too many hands in the pie, man.
Yeah, it's just like you need to be write something. Really
Take a risk.
Yeah, right. Do you remember anything like cinematically, like in terms of like a well-designed sequence in a Marvel movie?
Maybe a
Like
couple. In the early movies, maybe a couple.
I think the Russo brothers do really well designed stuff.
I don't know. I know that the event, like the end game, like they're just all on the ground. It's like I don't remember anything like amazing. Whereas Spider-Man 2, the train sequence is
It's
amazing.
so
And
easily
the Dark Knight,
remembered.
yeah, like little things like.
Maybe we'll do a Marvel.
And-
We'll do a Marvel movie next.
But like seriously, do you think Endgame is more like the battle sequence of Endgame? And do you remember a specific moment other than Captain America grabbing the hammer and everybody coming out? Do you remember a specific sequence that it was like, awesome? No.
As much as I dislike Marvel these days, I will still come to the defense of the original Iron Man movie. I like that movie.
Yeah, that because it was before they thought about
It was
the cinematic
before
universe.
the mass production machine had gotten started, you know?
Here's what we'll do. We're gonna take this off. We need to end the episode.
Okay.
So we're gonna pick a movie for next week. Maybe it's Iron Man. Maybe it's Marvel. Maybe it's another suit. Maybe it's Spider-Man 2. I don't know.
Spider-Man 2 is awesome.
Normally, at this point, we would do a new movie in our new kind of sequence, but those are all gone. So
Forever.
Question: did Wendy come out?
What?
Wendy. There's a movie, the Peter Pan movie called Wendy that was supposed to come out in January.
I haven't heard of it.
I don't know.
It's from the guy who did Beast of the Southern Wild.
Haven't heard of that either.
Oh! I know exactly what you're talking about. No, it hasn't yet.
It hasn't come out yet. Okay.
No.
Oh, Corona.
Yeah, I saw that. But yeah, no. So if you're watching, listening to this, we don't know what we're going to do next week. You'll have to follow our social media and stuff. But I assuming that one of us has this recording, we'll be able to post this and keep doing it.
I've got it.
Yeah. So, Wesley, thank you for joining us for our inaugural all virtual podcast.
It's a little rough around the edges.
Little rough.
I hope the pirate comes back.
It's just going to be the pirate. We'll replace that with just the pirate. To talk about like Shawshank Redemption.
He's dead. He ceased to be.
This is where it's right here.
Goodbye, everybody.